Hey crafty friends, this is Jenny from CraftTestDummies.com, and today we're going to look at some IMPRESSART metal stamping tools. And they sent me these products to try out for the first time. I've seen them before at trade shows, but I really had never played with them myself. So I just want to go over the basics of metal stamping with you in case this is something you'd like to try. So for metal stamping, you need some basic supplies, including a metal hammer, and this is the hammer that has like a brass head. And IMPRESSART makes these ones that actually you can replace this brass section so that as it wears down, because it's going to, you can just replace it without replacing the whole hammer, which I think is terribly clever. You're also going to need a metal stamping block like this one here, and that just creates a nice hard surface so that your metal can be impressed upon. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it is a little bit noisy, but it's a lot of good fun. And of course, the other thing that you need is something to stamp into, like bracelet blanks or circles of metal, but it has to be kind of a soft metal so that you can actually stamp into it successfully. And then you need a metal stamping kit. So here's the thing about this. You can find these cheap or expensive depending on what you're looking for, but IMPRESSART has a whole line of beautiful fonts and really durable stamps, because this is what you're going to use to impress the metal. Get it? IMPRESSART. So let's take a look.
Alright, so for this clip I actually turned down the sound when I was doing it so I could do the voiceover so you could hear. But these IMPRESSART metal stamping tools are really nice and sturdy. I want to show you these come in a beautiful case so that you can see everything, and even in the plastic it's labeled so that you know which is which. These ones are meant for texturing and creating like decorations around the edge, but you can see where you see the actual pattern, that's what faces you when you go to stamp. So it makes it easier that the number or the texture actually faces you. So what I'm going to do now is show you my first stamping on a round metal blank. So I also want to point out that these things are covered with a little bit of like machining metal when you get them, so you will need to wipe them down with a paper towel. I also found that the blanks are a little slippy slidey, so I started using just a post-it note to kind of hold it into place. Now they also have like a tape that has lines on it to help you line things up, but I didn't use this for the first time because I'm just winging it. So again, where you see the design, that lines up towards you so that you can see it. Now, I was kind of being like tentative, tap, 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 but you kind of have to give it just one solid whack. And there you can see I did a little, it's like a book, like a Bible, but it was pretty easy to do. My recommendation is to give it like 2 hard pounds instead of a bunch of little taps, because that way it won't move or shift as much. Now I'm also using a metal punch here so that I can create this blank, which is just a disc basically, into a charm. And once I do that, now I'm ready to add a little bit of highlight, which will make that metal stamping even stand out more. I'm using the IMPRESSART enamel pen, and you just go over the blank, get it down into the cracks and crevices of your stamping, let it dry thoroughly, and then burnish it off with a paper towel. And what that does is that the enamel gets down in the bottom and really creates a much nicer relief. So for my next sample, what I did was I decided to make a bangle. Now, sometimes the pieces have a little bit of protective plastic over the top, so you do have to take that off. Now, this is going to have 2 layers of writing on it, so I used one of the IMPRESSART stickers, and you see how the little gradations there to help me keep things straight, and I needed a little bit of planning. So I'm actually doing a latitude and a longitude bracelet. So I got my numbers, I found where the middle is, so I have 9 numbers, and now I'm going to actually start with the middle of the word or sequence, and then I'm going to work outwards. And this is just so that if you are trying to center something, it actually, you're starting in the center and you're building out. It seems a little weird to not go from like beginning to end, but trust me, it works a little bit better this way. So I'm going ahead, I'm doing my top layer, and if you notice, my technique is definitely getting better. So I kind of go pound, pound, and then I move on. And really, once you get in the flow, it's really kind of easy to do. I do recommend that you put out all your numbers or letters they're going to need with the alphabet or character face up so that it's easy for you to grab. But I was able to do this whole bracelet in like less than 10 minutes, which is pretty good. So as you can see here, I've got the top and the bottom numbers all done, and I'm going to go ahead and add that enamel marker. I can't tell you how much I love the enamel marker because it really makes a huge difference. So I put the enamel on, I set it aside to dry, and then we're ready to actually make it into a bracelet. Luckily, all it takes is a little bit of buffing and it's done. And I have found that even if you get this wet, it will not wash that ink out of the indentations, which is kind of nice. So the next thing I'm going to do is actually bend it, and ImpressArt has a bangle bending tool to make it pretty easy for you. Now, this is a pretty thick bangle, so it does take a little bit of muscle, but I just used the palm of my hand and I was able to shape it pretty easily. Now, if you use one of the thinner blanks, which you'll see in some of my samples at the end, they have metal bending pliers, and actually I'm using the pliers here to kind of fine tune it. So depending on if you're going to use the big bangles, you may need this tool. Otherwise, the pliers work really great. All right, so I'm going to leave you with a couple of my samples and just some basic considerations for metal stamping. It really is accessible to everybody, but there are things you have to keep in mind. First of all, it's kind of a pricey hobby, maybe not compared to like buying a die cut machine, but expect to spend between $50 and $75 just for a basic kit, a set of stamps, your hammer, your block, and some blanks. Now, it is a noisy hobby, so you have to be careful with that, and it requires some hand strength to hold the hammer. But if you get good tools, you're going to get good results, and I think you're going to get amazing professional looking results with just a little bit of practice. So I hope you enjoyed this overview. Stay tuned because I have a really cool project to show you coming up very soon. Thanks for watching and have a crafty day.